Aloha. With this video, I wanted to go into like some of the things that I foresee for this coming year based upon the trends of last year and how people have been, like what happened last year based upon what happened the year before, and then just observing the trend of individual shifts and like societal shifting or community shifting, and see like how long it takes like for things to catch tread. So like in 2015, in the early 2015, me and my brother were talking about how weed will be legalized, whether by the end of the year or the next year. Like, and we were in California at that time, so it was a whole like discussion to where one of like he was more skeptical about. He's like, no, that's never gonna go down. Like it's too soon. And by the way I was looking at things, I knew it was gonna happen within the year or the next year, and it started to really catch tread towards the end of that year and then the following year, and here we are now today where it's there. So that's just one example of things that have been going down, but you can kind of see what's going on when you just ask the right questions. If you're caught up in the questions that the system has prepositioned for you, then you're not going to really move anywhere other than through the level of consciousness that the system has set up for you. And that's ultimately how the whole system is designed to affect both the individual and the collective as a whole. And with this video, I wanted to kind of lay out how a lot of those systems are dying, if not already dead. So there's already people questioning the mainstream media. It's basically in its death throes. It's already gone. You have people questioning the healthcare system, politics, the education system, the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, the prison system. Like all of these things are out there. You got people asking about chemtrails, people asking about fluoride in the water, the GMOs in the food. You have people asking the questions, and how I see it is that's what actually matters. It doesn't matter what the system acknowledges. It matters what the people are paying attention to. What are you focusing on? What are you bringing to the surface? The only power that the system has is to steal your focus, steal your attention, so they can channel that into something that benefits the system. That it's not beneficial to the people necessarily. They promote it as that, but it's not beneficial to the people. It's beneficial to the system of self-implosion, self-destruction, control, greed, and just complacency and compliance on every level. And one of the largest ways, and what I was addressing in the last few videos, is that a lot of the reasons why these systems are allowed to thrive the way they do, it's not so much because of what people are doing, it's what people are not doing. So a lot of the people are not asking the right questions. Why? Because our questions are presented to us by actors, by musicians, by athletes, by politicians, by activists, by pundits, by comedians. Like everything that you think is important to pay attention to in the mainstream circuit is brought to you by, for example, like Dave Chapelle. So like last night, I watched Chapelle's 2 new series on Netflix, or his new stand-ups on Netflix, and I was analyzing it, and I wanted to do like a breakdown of it. But I think addressing it will be enough because it's basically just the same kind of concept that the system overall uses. It's mixed in with some very good information that can help you break the system, and then there's some very not so great information in there that traps you in the system. So an example of that is focusing so much energy on like voting. Like he had a time in there when he was talking about Trump pretty much taking the same position that people like Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and the mainstream media takes against Donald Trump, as if, the voting counts anyway. So he spoke some truth, but he didn't really go into like the truth that will, from that perspective, that will address the system. He just kind of left it out there. And I'm not coming down on him because of that, because of the way he presented himself later on in the stand-up, and then the stand-up, because there was two stand-ups. They were like 50 minutes a piece or something like that. This is not to give Dave Chapelle a pass or anything like that, because overall, it was just, I don't know. I didn't get a great feeling. Like it was a very confusing sort of thing, because I was very excited in one sense that he was presenting these arguments. Like he spoke about the system. He said how important it is for people to address the system, questions of the system, and left it very vague, very just kind of just, ask questions for yourself, because you can't really get into it too much. But the thing that really traps people is that when you get that deep and you balance it with still beliefs in like the voting system, beliefs in like just get that money, it's all about that money, then you're actually contradicting yourself in reference to the system. Now, it's only seen that way based upon the perspective of an individual who focuses their energy on like only breaking the system. That's like where I'm coming from a spoken word, educational information perspective. That's my approach, whereas his approach is comedy. So he has to play the extremes of people who believe in that system. So that's why he brought up that Trump stuff. And then he has to play the other side of, well, this is how I really feel. We're all being pimped right now. Like this is a pimp system, and basically everybody is the hoe. And even though I was getting $50 million thrown my way, this is how I'm going to explain to you what went down. It basically goes down from the perspective, and I've done videos from this perspective too. Many times I've explained how this system uses these tactics, the same tactics that pimps use. They use this, like NASA and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Those are some pimps. When they go over there and they say, "Oh, you believe in the flat earth? Here's my backhand, bitch. There is no flat earth. It's only about what we say. Get your ass back out there on the holstro and shut your mouth. Go make my money." That's what they're saying. So when they presented him with that $50 million, he kind of like dodged that backhand, because in the public, that's all you saw. That's what you saw, $50 million. How could you walk away from such a thing? But on the under, there's attachments there. And that's exactly what he walked away from. So since the system can't allow you to understand what those catches were, what was all in that contract, they had to demonize him. So they said he was on crack. They said he was crazy. They said he went to South Africa to go do drugs and, whatever it was. They had to demonize him so as to overshadow what he was actually, like his values, where he was really coming from. So I'm not giving Dave Chapelle a pass in any kind of sense. I understand. I can already hear people in the comment section. I'm just explaining to people how this system works, like how fake this shit is, like how ridiculous this world is, and what happens to anybody when they start stepping out. Look at what happened to B.O.B. Look at what happens to anybody. Prince, Michael Jackson. And I'm not giving any of these people any kind of passes or anything. What I'm saying is that there's always some information out there that you don't know about because you're not in their shoes. Same thing goes for like this transgender stuff that's out there. Like, I understand that this system is based upon flipping and reversing every single system, especially your relationship with yourself, your relationship with the balances of this reality. So it benefits the system to raise, especially in a patriarchal system, it benefits the system to raise people in chaos. So women thinking that they're men thinking that they're women, people in between. There's no kind of stability anywhere. It's basically like an interrelational version of the Big Bang. It's just chaotic. It's all over the place. It's based upon whatever you think it is or should be. And there's no meaning and purpose. It's just whatever. So as you're looking at this image right now, keep in mind why I'm sharing this image right now is what I wanted to talk about. I got sidetracked with the Dave Chapelle thing, but it's all the timing thing anyway. This is in reference to the mentality at a certain time frame. So you have this was going on. So this was trusted by people who had their name in the newspaper. They had any kind of influence over the community. You could just put an advertisement in the newspaper and then people want to buy your product. It's kind of like snake oil salesmen. Like back in the day, they had these snake oil salesmen and they have an actual, it's a thing. Like, oh, if somebody's selling you some bullshit, you can use the term snake oil salesman, because back in the day they actually used, the Chinese who was working on the railroad was using snake oil to like work their muscles out, like homeopathic stuff, just kind of like underground tinctures and all kinds of healing stuff that came from some other place. So since there wasn't anything kind of stable here, there was no healthcare system. Everything was just kind of like all over the place in the Old West. They didn't really have anything solid. But people, specifically the Chinese, were buying and seemingly benefiting from this snake oil that was actually coming from China. So what people in the States did was they saw an opportunity, a financial opportunity. So what they did was they co-opted, they culture vultured that momentum, and then they started selling rattlesnake snake oil. The thing is, the people that were in China making snake oil were making snake oil from water snakes. They were making snake oil from snakes who live in the water and eat fish. So the fish were actually being consumed by the snakes, and the snakes were actually building up their bodies with all these omega fats and all this fish oil that was actually a part of the snake oil. So everybody's using fish oil today. That's actually what was happening back then when they were using snake oil. But nowadays, when it was co-opted, it didn't work with rattlesnakes because they didn't have the same oil in their digestive systems, in their bodies. So people were just like, oh, you selling some old bullshit. You selling that old fake snake oil. You're not. So what happens is everything gets demonized. After it got co-opted, everything got demonized, put on the shelf. And then now you have the term, oh, you just another one of them funky ass snake oil salesmen. So what happens is that you have that that's generated, and most importantly, you have the demonization of what originally was going down with the stuff that, the original stuff that the Chinese were tapping into. So that's just one very generic example of how the system shuts down an idea. It shuts down something very real by co-opting it and locking it into something that is designed to die and implode because it has nothing of value. It's only based upon making a profit off of this product. So it loses its value. So that's the idea with this whole fake world. You have the mainstream reality is fake. Mainstream society is just this fake nonsense. Even your so-called revolutionaries like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a fake ass dude. Like, if you were to really talk to that dude, he's not gonna be like that. And even if you were, he's gonna implode. Even if you were to get deep with him, he's gonna implode into his belief systems, no different than a Christian would defending Jesus as, the end all be all of your reality. So you're basically nothing until you have the same belief systems as them. So they got to bully you into their mentality. So you have your heroes, your education, your healthcare, your politics, your people, your family, your culture, your food, your water, your relationships to your loved ones, your relationships to family, your relationship to yourself. All of this has been sold to you by these secondary snake oil salesmen who have told you that Western civilization is the fix-all cure for a savage people, a savage old world mentality. So they said, oh, well, everybody everywhere else is living in this shamanic sort of, this natural relationship with the world, and that's the old way. That all they had to do was say that over and over and over again, put it in the newspapers, put it on the radio, eventually put it in movies, and then you're just gonna believe it. This was the whole idea with cowboys and Indians. This was the whole idea with demonizing melanated peoples around the world. When they have those old cartoons, or they have those old racist cartoons, they have those old racist movies, and it really is something like that. I have to mention this over and over again because honestly, this only has to be mentioned to people who haven't experienced this before. Like, this is repetition for people who grew up around me, or who grew up that weren't really at all ever believing in the system. Like, people from inner cities or whatever, we already been hit with this reality that the system is designed to make a profit off of your downfall. That's why the inner cities are the way they are. It's not a mistake. It's not that we are less intelligent and that we don't work hard and all that other stuff. No, they put drugs and guns in the communities to back up that belief system. They put drugs and guns in the communities to back up the idea that they are the most evolved. That's why those things are happening. It's not because it's in our genetics. It's because we have been influenced by illusions by so many generations, by these snake oil salesmen who are only in this business of society for a profit. They can't make a profit off of healthy people physically, healthy people psychologically, healthy people spiritually. You can only make a profit off of sick and diseased people. So in society, we are bombarded by these fake ass systems to create sickness and disease in the masses. This is why you have this YouTube rewind sort of, it's just another version of the mainstream media. It's just another version of locking you into a particular mindset that benefits the system, if not today, 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So all of these people that they're promoting into your reality, you have the LGBT agenda, the alien agenda, the trans agenda, like everything that you see on television. It's not just there because whatever. It's there because that's designed to have an effect on your every body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your psychological body, your child mind. Like everything is being manipulated to think, act, and feel a certain way. So you have the older generations thinking that they want to be hip, trying to be in this whole technology thing of apps and, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. And they're proud of that. Like I listen to people when they're out at breakfast or whatever, and you can hear the pride that they have in the system that is generated to have you love it. And in that artificial love of it, you have an artificial love of yourself because you're a part of it. You're a part of it with Facebook. You're a part of it with your phone. You got a new phone? Oh, welcome to the crew, buddy. Like you got a degree? Oh, cool. Welcome to the crew. You're one of us now. Like you got a good job. You got a nice car. You live in this area. Welcome to the crew. You're one of us. And so on and so on. And anybody who's not a part of these mainstream crews, this fake ass reality, is outcasted. They just put them out there to make them look like the villains against the superheroes that are the new crews. And that's all they have to do. They just have to manipulate your psychology. If you have your psyche, your mind, sitting in between your body and your soul, they don't have to focus so much energy only on your body to lock you down, and they don't have to focus so much energy on your soul or your spiritual connection. They just have to have a firm grasp on the bridge between those realities, which is your mind. So if your mind is bombarded by sexual programming, if it's bombarded by mainstream illusions, if it's bombarded by shallow interpretations of society, humanity, the universe, and so on and so forth, they don't have to really do anything, because since you've bought into that linchpin, you inherently have to buy into the other systems that are in and around through the spiritual manipulation and the physical manipulation, because through peer pressure, all of the people who have also been locked into that zombified mentality, they go along with the flow. They go by the numbers based upon what the system has presented. So it's kind of like being proud of having a cancer. And as long as you're proud of cancer, you don't really acknowledge or even see the other cancers that are related to the cancer that you're proud of. And that's the thing, when I was saying in the last video, people are proud of this system. They don't even know why. They're just proud because they've been told over and over and over again. Like, look at all the veteran stuff or the flying of the what are those fighter jets over the Super Bowl, having that giant American flag, causing all this damn shit about taking a knee during the national anthem. And you're missing out. You see, it's all about focusing on the knee, like taking a knee. And they miss, that's to take you off from the perspective of what he's actually addressing, talking about police brutality and that whole system. Like they can't even allow you to start that conversation. Once you start that conversation, you are automatically going to eventually get into that system of questioning that will uproot this whole program. So in order to combat that, they have to deflect, distract, demonize, and keep the masses fighting on the checker game instead of asking questions about the three-tier chess game and the system itself. The three-tier chess game for your soul, your mind, and your body. Those are when you get out of the cloud of distraction from this fake reality that you're looking at in this image right now. Like, all these people have some kind of something that hooks you. It hooks a certain group of people. So you can look at all these people right now. They probably each have some kind of millions of followers if they're on this was the YouTube rewind or faces of YouTube, some kind of video, whatever it is, a thumbnail from one of these YouTube videos. And it was based upon a compilation of YouTube people. See, these people are selected just as much as you can see that videos are chosen to be on the trending page. Then you have to understand that videos are simultaneously chosen to not even be at all acknowledged. So if you can see all these videos, like for me personally, I've seen view counts go down. Like when I'm approaching 1 million views on here on this channel right now, with something like 750 videos on this channel, but I can't even take any. I have no real connection or happiness or whatever attached to those numbers, because I have personally seen the numbers on particular videos go down. So all of this shit's an illusion. All of it. You understand that they tell you certain storylines. If they're putting videos up, then you got to understand that they're putting videos down. And it's not just about the videos. That's just an example of information as a whole. What they're doing with these videos and the way that this system is, this mainstream pop culture, Western civilization system is designed, is that as they're building itself up, it has to simultaneously beat you down. It can't be one or the other. It has to be both at the same time. So if they're focusing on beating you up or beating you down, they have to simultaneously bring itself up. So this is all that Elon Musk, SpaceX, transhumanism, simulation theory, beating down on the flat earth, focusing on technology and the evolution theory. Like that's another thing that I think it was I don't know if it was a Chapelle or thing or another video that I was watching that mentioned evolution, and then that whole thing, like we evolved to this point, like that's the main thing. Like I don't see why a lot of people don't focus a lot on that. Like that alone can rip down a lot of systems, because once you break that code, it's kind of like the difference between watching a movie and being alive, like in an experience. See, when you're told that you have no meaning and no purpose from the Big Bang and gravity and all that other stuff, and there's nothing, you're just floating around in somebody else's movie. But when you see that there's some kind of creative intelligence, there's something here more than this fake ass reality, that inherently puts a responsibility in you, not only just for your experience, but for every single relationship, every single moment that you have. It's now filled with something that is, for lack of a better word, like activated, like something is activated. And this is what people in the New Age community are calling like the third eye and all that other stuff. It's not as simple as one thing. Like you're not going to go down the street to somebody and pay $299 to somebody to activate your third eye with a bunch of labradorite and amethyst and, quartz and putting it on your chakras. Like that shit's not going to do anything for you. That's not going to take care of the work you need to do. If it does do anything, if that individual does kind of break open something inside of you that wasn't there before, then yeah, that's going to help you in one way. But is that going to do the work that you need to be done to get to the point that you need to get to, that you've challenged yourself to get to? No, at best, it's just going to open some doors at best, but you yourself have to walk through those doors. Fake society, fake people, fake that whole system, it's not concerned with that. It doesn't have to do anything. It just has to live vicariously through the system. So this is what the system is all about. This is why voting is such a big deal. This is why celebrityism is such a big deal. This is why sports, the bread and circus is such a big deal, is because you live vicariously. You're still living like a child, living through superheroes, living through athletes, living through whoever you look up to. You have an external pride in something that's inherently fake, because that thing exists not only in a fake mentality, but a fake experience. So people are priding themselves in nothingness. Nothing. A good example of this is with like YouTube. Like you're priding yourself in what? In view counts, in likes, subscribers. Like what is there? Is there anything there to that? No, it's nothing. It will always boil down to the content, the character of the individual, the intent of the individual, the information that's being produced, what is being addressed. So that's why I said I'm still kind of holding back with the whole Dave Chapelle thing, because I'm kind of I really want to sit down and I want to break it down from start to finish, but I don't want to have to deal with that whole thing. I have to do the whole Netflix thing and that whole. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, but I think addressing it is enough. Addressing it is enough because people who are going to watch it for entertainment purposes or educational purposes, you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see when he starts talking about like voting, and that whole mentality is a trap. This is being portrayed in many different ways. It's not just the Western society. It's a pride in all kinds of things that are surrounded. So when you watch Dave Chapelle on Netflix, a lot of people are proud of him. He made it. Like, despite all, against all odds, he made it. Like, he's up there. He's at the top of his game. And that's why I said it's good to analyze something like that, because he is at the top of his game and he represents an entire genre. He represents comedy, specifically stand-up comedy. Like, you have Kevin Hart and Cat Williams out there, still up there, but Dave Chapelle is at the top of his game. He's on Netflix. He's highly, they want him. So he has an opportunity to share some perspectives, and he has to speak kind of metaphorically. He had to speak in analogies and all kinds of things. And that pimp breakdown, I was actually really happy about it, because people can take that really far. The only thing is, people are only going to take it as far as you've set them up to take it. So by pre-positioning the whole voting belief system, the whole American dream, the whole I need to make my money and that's pretty much it, there's nothing else, you're inherently promoting hopelessness. You're inherently promoting emptiness, and anything else you say will always be anchored back in the original belief system of what you presented earlier. So yes, the individuals can take that pimp analogy all the way to the universe. They can be like, man, we've been pimped by heliocentrism. We've been pimped by Western civilization. We've been pimped by the university system. We've been pimped by illusions. We've been pimped by every single system that exists and has been existing since slavery and beyond. Since the whole new world, the whole new Rome mentality. That's a pimp game. And back in the day, they used to whip you, just like they do with the prostitutes. It's the same thing. They whip you. See, they used to whip you back then with an actual whip. But after a while, they realized that the whip wasn't working anymore. You had to have a more intense whip. So they started to whip you psychologically, which is what the education system is to keep you down. It's to say, well, you're a savage, you're a primitive, you're nothing, and we're the best. We're the best by God, by God's hand. God, through manifest destiny, said, we are more evolved than you. if you don't think that that has an effect on generations of people, then you are severely mistaken. And if you don't think that there's work that needs to be done in reference to that mind control program that's existed for hundreds of years, then you're going to be missing out on something very crucial. Like, people still have problems with me mentioning white supremacy and so forth in the comment section. And that's your problem. They ain't got nothing to do with me. It's people that are in and around my circle that when I mention that, it's repetitive. Like, I don't have to go into details of explaining that. So just think about that. Keep that in mind if you're having problems with this, because it's not a problem that I have or an issue that I have. It's a subject. It's an information stream that the individual who has a problem with it has, because they are uninformed, unaware of what that actually means. See, when I'm talking about it, I'm not talking about it from the perspective that comes down from mainstream media, how it's just like, oh, we should just move on. We should just come together as one in unity and all. See, that's that new age shit that the system wants you to walk right into, so that they do not be held accountable for their injustices against the people to maintain this fake ass reality, and simultaneously bring in this next version of perspective that is based upon another set of illusions. So bringing you down and bringing itself up. That's the name of the game. And what they promote out there is pride in the way the system is. So they'll promote actors and actresses that play the game. They'll promote them because they benefit the system. As soon as they stop playing the game, they will be taken out. They will be removed. They will be blacklisted. Whatever it is. They're a threat to the system now. See, Martin Luther King, he was a benefit for the system, because he was telling people, oh, just be quiet, be peaceful, be nothing. Don't ask any questions about that. Just follow what's going on from the perspective of the church. Christianity is the way to go. Give your life, give your power away to that. Just be complacent. Don't push the limits. Whereas people like Malcolm X and the Black Panthers were saying, no, you need to defend yourself from a genocidal system by any means necessary. So they promoted Martin Luther King. They named streets after him because they want that mentality in your head. That's basically having like a Christian advertisement in every city. They tell you it's because they're honoring somebody like Martin Luther King, but no, they're playing you for a fool. They're playing you because they're making you proud of your own enslavement. So the religion was designed to make you submit, just like Martin Luther King made you submit in comparison to Malcolm X, who was not about that. But as soon as Martin Luther King started talking about, you need to address the system, stop paying for their bread, stop buying white bread, stop buying white soda, stop buying white this, white that, whatever it is, you need to invest in your own community. Kind of like how Black Wall Street was before it was bombed by the KKK that was backed by the government. So see, a lot of people who are still defending or getting all butthurt when I mention white supremacy in the comment section, people don't know about Black Wall Street. They don't go into, they don't give one shit about the way the system got to where it is today. And that's the thing that it's not at all surprising to me, because I've interacted with people with way worse kind of perspectives than that. It's just really sad when you see people who just do it unconsciously. They don't even realize what they're actually saying. Like when I'm bringing all this information up and then somebody says, oh, well, why don't you just focus on love and unity and all this other stuff? I'm like, well, how could you do that when they're dropping bumps? See, people who are saying that is because they're comfortable. They've been comfortable. They love that shit. But take your ass out somewhere else where they're dropping bombs on villages. Live your ass in that village and see if you still feel the same way about that. Love and unity. You just need to be thinking about love and unity while they're dropping bombs on your house. You think they give a shit about your little love and unity meditation circles? Hell no. They need you to be doing that because your little love and harmony meditation circles have the same effect on people that the dumbing down that comes as a side effect to mainstream religions. Just keep sitting back and waiting for some invisible guy on a picture to come back and save you. That's it. Just sit down and wait for it. That has the same effect that the Big Bang has. You're nothing. You have no meaning, no purpose. You're just another cosmic accident that needs a savior. And today's ongoing savior is the civilization, so-called Western civilization itself. That's completely upside down and doesn't make any sense. So if you try to make sense out of it, you will only make that ball of like knots, just like some thread that's just like in a bunch of knots. You're not gonna be able to do anything with it if you're just like throwing it around or trying to. You're actually gonna make it worse. So you have to step back and see like how all this stuff is aligned. How is it aligned? How is it affecting us? So like a friend of mine just came to hang out a couple days ago, and he's really into like health and all kinds of other stuff, but still drinking like soy milk and all, and eating soy stuff. And I mean, I was doing the same thing, but you know, you go through time frames and then you learn things. So when I was explaining like Dr. Sebi's perspective on soy in reference to it creating sulfides in the body, people really like, my friend really kind of paid attention. Other people are starting to pick it up too. Same thing with like almond milk and soy milk. I think it was like soy milk that produces something like estrogen, and almond milk produces testosterone, or vice versa, one or the other. But that's how these programmers are playing. So they're not only locking down your psychological interpretations of your reality and your existence, but they're locking down you on the physical and the spiritual. And this is how they're locking down your spirit. So not only do they have to bring you down, but they have to bring the system up. So they say, yeah, here, eat this soy. Soy is really good for you. When actually it's just a money maker. It's another like fake snake oil thing being sold to people. And they're selling it to you under health and well-being and not eating meat and all that other stuff. That's why you see all that vegan stuff is mostly soy holding it all together. So this whole vegan thing, they're going to get a whole bunch of people that's eating all that damn soy, putting all that sulfide in their body. But what's the ongoing atmosphere of the vegan community, and in reference to like the LGBT community? Like, it's a wonderful thing. They put it on television. They paint the White House in rainbow colored flag lights when Obama was there, and they show their support for that shit. But you start talking about anything that's addressing the system, you're a kook. You're crazy. Something wrong with you. But if you're talking about what they like, that's why they like this fake trans LGBT sort of pop culture, pop slave bullshit. They need that out there. It's just another way of buying you into a limitation, something that's going to destroy you. So they got to build it. They got to build up poison. They're selling poison to you as a medication. Social media is a poison, but it's sold to you as a medication. Oh, they're keeping it all together. They're doing this. They're doing it, that. You're like, you can meet with your family. You can network. You can get jobs and all this other stuff. This is the same thing that Trump was talking about in his New Year's address. Oh yeah, we're jobs, jobs, jobs. He's like slave, slave, slave. That's basically what that is. We got more slave opportunities for you. Just wait. Coming the new year, we're gonna get your ass out there in that field. You're gonna be working. If you ain't in the field working today, you're gonna be in the field working tomorrow. Cause we got slave, 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 job, job, jobs coming right up. You just wait. So the same way they're selling you that bullshit, that's them building themselves up. They got to build it up while they're beating you down. So the new age has to build up the idea of love and light from the perspective of that's the only way it is to be. Ain't no different than waiting on Jesus to come and fix the world. So you got people locked down with mainstream religions by being built up and being built down. You got being built up because you pride yourself in being almighty and all holy and all that other shit, but you got the Catholic guilt. And you got the being born in sin and all that other shit bringing you down. So what happens? You're chaotic. You're nothing. You're lost in that universe that has been generated by some destructive intelligence, parasitic ass people or entities or beings, whatever you want to call it. And it affects people the same way in a different style. Like it does the same thing to you, but it'll do it in a different style. So if you're not being bought off and sold by this fake ass mainstream reality, you'll buy in to TYT. If you ain't buying into MSM, you're buying into TYT. If you don't buy into TYT, you're gonna buy into Alex Jones. You don't buy into Alex Jones, you're gonna buy into David Icke. You don't buy into David Icke, you're gonna buy into I don't know, whoever else is out there. Joe Rogan. You don't buy into Joe Rogan, you don't buy into Eddie Bravo. The thing is, they're selling you information, perspectives. You don't think for yourself. Because the people out there, same thing happens in New Age. David Wilcock, Corey Good, all these channelers out there. You have no responsibility to take any action or think for yourself when you have a so-called superior or higher intelligence that basically punks your ass in these channelings. Says, no, 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 no. Stop with all that low vibration talk. It's all about love and light and unity. You are your own enemy. So like I was just listening to Abraham Hicks New Year's thing, and really what it boiled down to when I was listening to it, the first like 5 whole minutes, it was basically like go to sleep. Like I'm gonna do a video in reference to speaking about that channel in particular, where they talk you in circles. Channelers, specifically people who've listened to Abraham Hicks, all it does is talk in a circle, like stuff that feels good. You know how people pump people's heads up and they're like, oh, look, your ass is getting bigger. Oh, look at this. You know how people walk around like this Umar Johnson shit. He a perfect example of what's going on with somebody's head being pumped up. So he been pumped up so much, he didn't do any work for himself. He hasn't never really grown. He's still a man. He's still a child. He's still a man-child out there. And you got people following him. So he actually benefits the system because he's telling you that he's going to build a school, but he's actually still a child at heart. So even whatever school that he builds is going to max out at the level of consciousness of the builder. I peeped this game when he came to Oakland back in like 2014, I think it was, late 2014. I actually went to one of his things and I asked him some questions just to interact, just to engage in him, in his little like banter, his back and forth to see how he would respond. And he pulled out his psychological game and he really got into that whole like defense mechanism, playing the victim. And then, like egging on the audience to attack me. Like something was wrong with me because I was asking a particular question. Like, I'm like, no, I'm just asking, like, why are you talking to us like this? Like, why? Because my main thing was his focus is based upon making his idea of the school the great the greatest thing since sliced bread. So the way he does that is to make you feel like shit, make the system look like shit. So he talks down to people. When he came to Oakland, he thought he was going to talk to these ghetto ass, just old nothing, no intellect, no education, not giving a fuck. They just coming around, just regular ass black people who just ignorant as all hell. And he came talking to people like that. I'm like, look, you can't talk to me and my friends like that. Who the fuck you think you are? Like, that's how I felt on the inside. Because he came here, he just totally really, it was sick. It really was sick. And from that point on, I knew this dude was full of shit. And if he wasn't out there on purpose, then his purpose in being out there actually helps that system, that program of mind control and keeping people down. Because that's what I said about people who are either conscious of their controlled opposition or not conscious of it. It doesn't matter. If you're conscious of an action of controlled opposition, then it's your responsibility to say something about it. If people are going to be consumed or subjected to, like, buy into that controlled opposition, thinking that it's the end all be all, you can't do anything about it. That's something that individual has to get through themselves. No different than me when I was all up in the new age community looking at all this information, thinking that that was the end all be all about everything. And I was like, no. That's not what it is. Whose responsibility was that to get out of there? Was it anybody else's? No, it's mine, solely mine. So it took some time to get out of that. So people like Umar Johnson do the same thing. They invite you into their church and they say, this is what it's all about. And as soon as you start talking about something else or challenging what makes them feel and seem like they're powerful, then they got to become the victim. Then you got to become the villain. So that's what happened when I was asking those questions, and then it was just full on attack. It was like, look at this little light-skinned motherfucker up here talking some shit against me. Like, you ain't been around longer than me. You ain't done what I done. Like, wait a second. Are you actually listening to what I'm saying? Like, do you understand from an educational perspective where I'm coming from? Are you just trying to make yourself look good or be perceived a certain way? Because my very approach to you after you brought that ignorant ass shit to this community, talking to us like we were some dogs or some shit. Nah. When you bring that conversation into my community, you will be addressed as such. So this individual goes around, like Tariq was saying in his addressing to Umar, like a traveling traveling minister. He's a traveling minister for his own church, and his own church is what he's calling the school. So you have people vesting their energy and their focus in these people, and people vest their energy in the individual and don't focus on the work that's being done, the information that's being presented, the ideas that are being talked about. They don't care about that. It's all about the people. It's all about the faces. So when I reference people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye and a lot of these YouTube sensations as being full of shit, you get attacked by their followers. You get attacked by them because they don't see what you're talking about. They see who you're talking about. So that's like another layer of separation from what I was talking about in reference to the why, the how, and the what. See, so what the mainstream focus needs to focus on is the what, the so-called hard science of reality, the so-called hard science of the universe. That's their bread and butter. They need you to focus on the what. In reference to flat earth, it's just flat versus globe. That's it. That's very simple, because they can come back later on and say, well, here's the real science. We got the real images. We put the real balloons and rockets in space to take real pictures of the earth. And this is what it looks like. This is the math to it. All you fake YouTube scientists and YouTube educators, y'all ain't shit. It's us. We tell you what the fuck the reality is. And when that point comes, they're gonna say, well, these were the bad guys who didn't wanna allow people to get smarter, and these were the good guys. Like Obama. Like he's a good guy and other people are bad guys. So that's what they're doing with this whole pedophile stuff. And they're saying, oh, we're going to hold these people accountable. You're going to focus on the people. You're not going to focus on the system that generated those people and the system that's still continuing to go on. You're not going to focus on that because that will cut out your bottom line. But if you just patsy some people out there, then your system is safe. So what's going on is that people are investing in people. See, this is what social media does. And I kind of got sidetracked, but this is what it really boils down to. For people who have been listening to this channel, you know the difference that I explained in reference to what, how, and why. What is like the physical stuff. It could be akin to like the body. Basic, everyday shit. It's just like distraction. It's kind of like love based upon, the body. It's not real love. I mean, some people can feel it a certain way. Like you might have been attracted to, at like 18 years old, you're attracted to another 18-year-old. And then, because they look a certain way. But you don't have any real kind of like depth to yourself to be feeling a deep love because there's no experience there to back that up. So it's very kind of shallow. It's not to say that it's not real because it's all a progression. It's all a journey. But there's a difference there is my main point. So what happens is that's the what. Then you have the how of stuff. So in reference to like mind control. Mind control is like based upon the how. Like how does this affect your psyche? How does it affect your subconscious? How does it affect your body? How does it affect society? How has it affected our ancestors, our present moment, and our ideas of the future? How does this stuff work? How do all the what pieces fit together? See, that's a different level of consciousness. And that's where I'm saying is the difference between what and how. So you can't ask questions about how with heliocentrism and how with flat earth in reference to mind controlling the people in society, because that will start going into the systems as a whole. You can't ask those questions. You got to stay focused on what, because what is what makes money. What is what is accepted by the society. So those are two positives for people. And they're like, well, I got to make money and I got to get my subscriber bases up. I got to get all this stuff up, the likes and social media. And I got to do all this stuff. Okay, great. Nothing wrong with that. Do whatever you got to do until you max yourself out. What I'm saying is that eventually you're going to max yourself out. Or not. People can stay in that bubble forever. But if you're seeing from where I'm coming from in reference to growth, the difference between growth and locking yourself into another dogma, you have a responsibility to constantly expand the perspective, expand the consciousness. So you have the difference between the what and the difference between the how. Beyond the what and the how, you have the why. So you've now pieced together a lot of how this system works to lock you down. Because you've understood the various complexities of all the different whats that are out there. Then you got the same amount times like 1,000 of complexities in the how. Now you are into the why, which is built up of all those hows, all those whats, and times 1,000, 100,000 of possibilities and realities of why these things exist. Why are you being locked in? Why does mind control exist? Why is the education system based upon obedience, authority, complacency? Why is it based on like discipline? Why is it not based upon like education and intellect? Why is it not based upon growth and caring for yourself? See, all these questions can't even be asked because it's taboo to ask, because you're basically you're spitting in the face of the king. It's like even back in the day, they used to say that if you're speaking English, you're speaking the king's language. You're speaking the king's tongue. That's what the English language. So the actual language itself that you're using to observe and talk about this reality itself is a mind control program. It itself is something that locks down your consciousness. So once you break that and see that, you can start to do all kinds of things with language and so on and so forth. And then that's when you can start asking deeper questions of why. You have to break the codes of what and how. You have to break them and play around with them in a way to understand why. So you can't even acknowledge a lot of the systems in the what category because the what is built up of those structures. So you can't do that. So it's a very generic and basic ass consciousness when you're being bombarded by the mainstream calibration of stuff like what. So that's why they got to keep you in that, because since you have no ability to ask deeper questions, you are now in a place to accept whatever the system presents to you. So that's why focusing so much on what, like flat versus globe, going to the moon, going to Mars, global warming, this is all what stuff. And they made up a lot of that stuff to make you believe in that fake world, that fake universe. So you have the what, you have the how, and then you have the why. And the why and the how, and those can take entire lifetimes to get some kind of equilibrium out of there. But once you start at least asking those questions and opening the door to entertaining those perspectives, you're a different person, because you're not limited by the old thought processes. So you have the idea of the what, the how, and the why. What I'm saying is that now, and I didn't realize this before, this is the first time I actually said this, because it makes a lot of sense now. There's a lower level of the what. There's something beyond the what, and that is the who. So if you can understand like what is going on with global warming, and what is going on with flat versus globe, and what is going on with fake politics, and great, congratulations. That's one level of consciousness that people are engaged in. Another level of consciousness that people are engaged in and don't really, and has the same effect, is people who vest all their energy in people, in the who. So they don't care about their ideas like intellectually. They're not engaged in it because they've given all their power away to the individual, the who. That's actually the main, that's the core of the mainstream psyche consciousness, is to focus on who. This is why when you vote, first of all, it doesn't matter. Second of all, you're vesting your trust and movement and expansion of consciousness in somebody, in a who, in Obama, in Hillary, in Bernie Sanders, in Donald Trump, in Alex Jones, in Cenk Uygur, in David Icke, or Russell Brand. Or these actors that are, or Colin Kaepernick. It's the same thing. Same thing for Dave Chapelle. Like people do this with Dave Chapelle. It's the same thing. Any of these people that are projected into your reality, it's to keep you from thinking for yourself. So they have to project into your reality somebody. So when somebody is in your face, you don't have to actually go into what's going on, because you've vested your energy into somebody else telling you what's going on. That's the world where actually people are trapped in. The who that comes before the what. And then if you're lucky enough to get out of that, then you can get into the what. But you're still not out of the trenches yet, because now you have to question your reality from a perspective of how. How does this work? How does this affect me? And then once you get in and out of that space, now you're going into why things are. And then that just continually grows, because there's so many different angles that are in that perspective that you really start to see your hows and whats and who's from a different perspective. And you can't do that if you're bombarded by, for example, like all of these things that weigh your body down and weigh your mind and your spirit down. So this is how they bring the system up and they bring the system down. This is how they use actors, the bread and circus. They use all that stuff. They use it, and specifically, just like the bread and circus, back in the Roman time frames, when something was going down, they used to throw these people to the lions, and that was the circus. They used to throw, well, if shit went down, they used to put them in the circus. So by you being engaged in that world, you think things are changing because that's the way it's supposed to be. It's like, yeah, that shit went down, now they're in the circus. Oh, we're getting bread. So you got the distraction like social media. That's the bread that keeps you distracted and thinking that you're famous now because you got a lot of Instagram followers or something like that. Like that's the bread. The circus is the information that you're talking about and the people who get thrown into that tank with those, or that arena with those lions and tigers and shit. Like that is the bread and circus of today. And once you get locked into that world, it's hard to get out of that a lot of the time. I don't want to say it's hard because sometimes it's not. Sometimes you hit that point and you're fed up with what's going on. That's what happened to me. It was just kind of like, man, I'm working out every day. That was my first thing, was like focusing on my body. I'm like, I'm working out every day, but I feel like shit. Like, why do I still feel like shit if I'm running 3, 4, 5 miles a day, doing all this weightlifting and all this stuff? And then I realized, like, what am I actually putting into my body? Like, maybe that has something to do with, like, how I'm actually feeling. And that's what was going on. Like, I was just grilling every day, chicken thighs, barbecue, all kinds of shit. But it wasn't helpful. Like, I was maxing out by short-circuiting myself. It's like, yeah, you're working your ass off, but you're counteracting all of that work with destruction, broken food, broken fuel. That's what it was. So energetically, psychologically, you have broken fuel. That's what the education system is. And we can't see it as broken, or it's designed kind of like watered down fuel. Like it's gonna jack your motor up eventually. They put sugar in your tank. They put any kind of thing that's in your engine that's not supposed to be there. It's gonna throw everything off, and that's what the system is based upon. So they'll put a banana in your tailpipe. They'll put sugar in your tank. They'll put all kinds of things in there to make it look like something's like off with you, but no. That was an implant. It was an implant that was designed to have an effect on you. Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders. These are all implants. Any of your actors, all this stuff, implants. Implants to make you think that you have freedom of thought, you have freedom of this, freedom of that. You don't. You're not thinking for yourself, especially if you're locked in the who of society and the what. Only when you start going into the how and the why is when you at least open the door to what's going on out there. Before that, you're living in somebody else's illusion. That's why flat earth is such a threat to this system. So they keep you proud. They keep you proud like this. Fuck lettuce. She's got like 5 or 10 pounds of bacon on a thing, and it's like, yeah, baby, bacon. Some belly fat, some back fat off of a pig. That's what America is about. What you talking about? This is some real shit. I used to like bacon. I used to eat it. I used to run downstairs when my mom was making breakfast, cooking up that bacon. But then you start to feel a certain way about things, and then things change. But it's an entire society. Your society is vested into that. Your people, their culture, the very nature of who they think they are is vested in shit like bacon, baseball, burgers. You know, that's what people think they are. That's horrible. But like this thing says, it says it's got to build you up. Build up your destruction. So this is what the educational system is. This is just another example of like how things are changing in a sense. Before I get there, I wanted to go over this list of pride, stuff that's, you know, people are proud of in this world, and just kind of maybe go into them. But I wrote down the list, and I was going to make a whole video about specifically this, but I figured I'd just tie it in now because it works with this. So you have, you're proud of being a vegan and all this other stuff, but they ain't going to tell you shit about, you know, like the complexities of soy and what that does to your body. And then you pride yourself in not being like this lady, not being like this. So you keep eating this because you're proud to not be like this. And boom, you're the superhero now. Now they've created another world for you to live in. That's how this pride and guilt programming works, just like fear and love and the New Age agenda. I've mentioned that in previous videos, but it has the same effect in this right now. So another thing they have is like pride in global warming. So pride in a sense that you hear like the tone of Bill Nye, who just sits on those panels and he makes those facial expressions and pretty much just kind of like he doesn't even have any like scientific degrees. He's just got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. He's an actor. He's not a real anything. He's an actor out there to make those facial expressions. That's it. And then to be put on Netflix talking about he's saving the world. Like, that's how they play this game. It's all smoke and mirrors. So you're proud of people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Michio Kaku and Richard Dawkins and Ollie Ray Kurzweil. You're proud of all these people because they have a particular approach to something like global warming. In that pride you have in that individual, you now pride yourself in being smart and successful like them when it's total bullshit in the first place, but yet you're proud of it because they projected it on television as such. So you're proud of, you know, the way you are saving the planet from global warming. That's how they buy you into it. So you're proud of global warming. You're proud of beating cancer. So they get you all these they put all these cancer beating stories on the internet and on social media, and you're proud. Like, good job. You're proud of that. And they're doing that because cancer is an industry, and they need you to keep buying into that industry by not paying attention to the way the industry is designed to make money off of your sickness, your death and destruction, your self-destruction. So this is why you have people like, or businesses like corporations like KFC and Campbell Soup and all these other people who got cancer producing elements in their products wearing this pink ribbon stuff. So you're taking pride in your own self-destruction. So that's how they buy it into your reality. So they sell you the idea of beating cancer, but actually they're pushing more cancer. They sell you 1% of your beating cancer, but they're selling you 99% of cancer causing products in your reality. But you don't see it like that, because what did Sandra Bullock say? What did George Clooney say? What did Will Smith say? What did all these other people say? Because that's what really matters, right? Yeah, okay, well, that's why I'm proud. So you're proud of global warming. You're proud of beating cancer. You're proud of beating Satan. Like, that's what the whole religious part is. You could see this from, like, institutions, too. So this is how it breaks down. I just name these off as the focus, or like what's focused within these represents these institutions. So you have global warming, cancer. That's another thing that's big in that mainstream world. Satan, the whole like Jesus versus Satan mainstream religions. That's huge for the mainstream. So they have God bless America all the time. They say that because when you say God bless America, you're saying God bless Jesus and God bless all the people who believe in Jesus against Satan. And Satan represents everything else that's not Jesus. So boom, you're the superhero there. So you pride yourself in defeating Satan. So that's what people would have thought was going to happen if Hillary was elected or selected. But the same thing could be saying the opposite way. People say the same thing. Oh yeah, we beat Satan. That's what Trump is saying right now with his Christian beliefs. He's saying, oh yeah, we beat Satan. Those Satanists. Because Donald Trump said, really? That's what you think happened? Okay. If it's that simple, that's what it is. So they buy you with that. You got pride in beating Satan. You got pride in beating addiction. So that's another thing. They got a 12-step program. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with the 12-step program and people talking about addiction and all that. Nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that the way the atmosphere, just kind of like the LGBT and the alien agendas out there, they got this addiction agenda that's out there too, to make you pride yourself in just getting out of a particular thing. You're not really doing anything for the betterment of society as a whole, other than you fixing yourself in some kind of way by beating addiction. But as a whole, it's only about your relationship with addiction, whether it's drugs, food, sex, whatever it is. You're focused on that. You're focused on that. You're not focusing on the system that's designed to promote addiction. Commercials promote addiction. Mainstream media promotes addiction. Social media promotes addiction. The entire Western so-called civilization banks on you being addicted to something. And once you are locked into that, you're now down. So once you're down, they got to bring you up. So in comes Russell Brand with his addiction book. In comes all these self-help people like Tony Robbins and whoever else is out there. Oprah with her new age shit, and Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra telling you whatever it is to become a better person, and they're still in that garbage shit. They're there to trap you. Once you think you've gotten out of one trap, you jump into another trap. Just like the same thing I did when I jumped out of the Occupy movement, thinking I was going to do something, better, which in a sense I was for myself, but that system that I jumped into was another trap that I could have been trapped in, that would have been worse than where I was before if I hadn't acknowledged it, which was the New Age community. So you got traps within traps within traps, and you can't get out of it because that's the way the system is designed. So whether you're getting away from it or you're priding yourself in it, doesn't matter, because your focus is based upon the consciousness that they presented for you in the first place. That's why I say it's so important to focus on the experience-er in reference to flat earth or not heliocentrism, because it not only reveals information about how the system works, why the system works, the way it does, and inherently what the system is doing, but it allows people to empower themselves and not be and raise the potential to not be sucked into another mind control program. If you're only sold the what perspective of flat earth, you're going to easily be sucked into some kind of scientific belief system that is just wonderful in reference to how they perceive flat earth. And a lot of people are going to fall into that. They already are. They think, oh, well, once people believe flat or start questioning the globe and start looking at flat earth and for listening to Eric DeBay and listening to Mark Sargent, then everything's going to be better. Are you really that simple? Do you really think everything that's led up to today is that simple? If so, I don't know what else to say. And if you got a problem with that, just turn this video off right now. Because it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. So you got the pride in addiction, pride in cancer, global warming, Satan, pride in reproduction, so having babies. So it's just like I said, you can tell everybody in the world that it's flat earth, and they might even believe it, but that's not going to do anything in the long run because they're still slaves in their head. So people are reproducing right now because that's what society tells you to do and all that other stuff. And even the Bible tells you go forth and, bring fruit and all that other stuff. So you got to start questioning this stuff. And people are, so you can have a baby and that baby might be smarter and better off than you in the future. The thing is, are you still a slave? And are you still going to install slave mentalities into that baby? Most people are going to have to say yes. And that's what I'm saying is the problem. The problem is not what's going on. The problem is how it went down, why it's going down, and how you're going to approach it. A lot of people just want to shut down and be like, well, I'm just going to have some babies and that's it. I'm just going to, I done my job. I finished. I still hear that to this day. I did my job. I got 3 babies. I did that. I'm raising them. They are some about to graduate. What did you do? These babies ain't coming from you. You didn't make these babies. You might have raised these babies at best, but you didn't make them. That soul has a purpose here. It ain't got shit to do with you in the long run. Ain't got nothing to do with you. Has more to do about what their relationship is with the experience itself. Not your prideful ass, oh, I just, had sex and had a baby and then, now I'm a man, or now I'm a father, now I'm a mother. Shit, having a baby don't make you a mother and a father. Shit don't make you shit. You make you whatever it is that you was gonna be. Ain't got shit to do with nothing else. See, but it's that simple. It's that simple. That the reason why reproduction is promoted in the society is because it's an easy way to make gods out of people. It's an easy way to make slave owners, controllers, disciplinaries out of people. So the way you raise your kid is based upon the way society raises you. And if you're raising your children the same way society raises you, you're not doing anything but repeating the same patterns that benefit the slave system. So like growing up, from people who are my age, a lot of people were like, the babysitter was movies. So what happens is that instead of wisdom being presented to the children, indoctrination. Back in the day, the ancestors, like, you used to go sit with your elders and learn from your elders when you were having problems. That doesn't exist anymore because the elders are in retirement homes now, or cast out of society, whatever it is. Like, it's completely different. So the separation, the family dynamics are completely broken and thrown all over the place. But anyway, point being is that you're losing one thing and gaining something else, but that whatever you're gaining is not a gain. It's actually a subtraction in the long run. It seems like a gain right now. Like when you put your baby down in front of that tablet or the TV and put that movie on, like it seems like a gain now, but in the long run, what's actually going down? Like what's actually happening? Like me, I was raised like that. And then I was the older brother of a younger brother and sister. So I would do that too. As soon as shit hit the fans, like, oh, no, here's a distraction. Watch this movie. Like, cool. Everything is okay. But is it okay though? What are we telling our children? How are we explaining to our children how we should react. Are we communicating, or are we filling in a void? There's a difference there. You can communicate and fill that void, but it takes more work. Or you can just fill the void. And this society is based upon filling the voids in people, because you can't look at the history. You can't look at that stuff. Those are voids. So you have to be implanted with information that has an artificial filler, artificial ingredients that make you feel full, that make you feel like it's kind of like MSG in a way. Like it's horrible for your body, but like it might enhance the flavors for the moment. Like that, it does taste a little bit better, but why do I have a headache? Like, why is my body feeling all like dizzy and all kinds of shit? Like, oh, but didn't it taste good? Like, yeah, it's good, but I feel like shit. Like, don't worry about that. The contest is based upon the way it tastes, so don't ask any questions. So anyway, having babies, graduating is another one. People pride themselves in that bullshit. Priding themselves in conspiracy theories. Oh, I know about this, I know about that. Same thing with flat earth. Priding themselves in Democrats versus Republicans. The point being is that in all of these, you can see it from the perspective of a trap. Like, these are traps that are presented to people for them to trap themselves. Because like I said earlier, they needed to whip you first before you learn how to whip yourself. So physically you are whipped until the whip didn't work anymore, and they needed to raise the consciousness of that whip into a psychological whip. Once they raise the consciousness of that whip, then now you can teach your higher consciousness slave to whip themselves and whip their future generations. That's what's happening with mainstream religions, mainstream so-called science, and all this other garbage and nonsense that's being promoted by politics and Western so-called civilization as a whole. It's a self-mutilating whip. And they don't have to do much other than to build themselves up. Just like they build up these shitty ass musicians. Like, like, how did that person get famous? Like Kim Kardashian and all that other shit. Like Paris Hilton. Like, how did them people get famous? Because they promote an atmosphere. They promote a level of consciousness. You think they gave the Kim Kardashian and the Kardashians a TV show because they knew people would watch it? You think they give a shit about that because it's just about the money? No, the psyche comes before the money. Mind control comes before the money. That shit's secondary. And in fact, they will bulk their money numbers up just to keep the mind control program going. So it ain't about the money. For people who are always talking about, the follow money. Yeah, that's part of it. But what will always outrank the money is the psychology behind that money, what the money does. So an example of that is they don't give a shit about ratings and all that other stuff. They can make up ratings, like all these polls for these presidential polls, just the same way they make up the presidential voting thing. You don't think they're doing the same thing on MTV, VH1, and all these other TV shows? They make you think and act a certain way. They're making you feel a certain way about what they want you to think about. Dems versus Republicans, first world country pride. So yeah, you take pride in being a first world country, not even acknowledging what you had to do to get there. Just think of you as a first world country. You had to slit the throats of all these indigenous people and genocide all these people. Now you standing up on top of a mountain like you're king shit, talking about I'm the first world country. I'm the best of the best. And you ain't nothing but a pirate, a criminal, a funky ass little half pimp That's all it is. Pimp game. So you take pride in evolution. You take pride in evolution. Taking pride in evolution, intellect of evolution, is taking pride in Western so-called civilization. That's how this stuff feeds itself and works on itself through your belief systems. Like, oh, what do you mean? That's that whole, you don't have a phone, you don't have an internet connection, you don't have social media, you can't communicate with people. Like, you don't like that stuff. You don't like having this and that. Like, you're missing the whole point. You're already defending this program without acknowledging what I was talking about in the first place. That's the problem. Before you get to even understanding where we're coming from, you already defending some old bullshit. That's a child, adolescent mind mentality. It's very fragile. That's why they got all this politically correct bullshit out there. Dave Chapelle mentioned that perspective, and he didn't really go as deep as he can go into it though, because I know he went Netflix deep. That's the thing. He could have went like. The thing is that I'm glad that he did what he did, because he's at the top of his game. He did push the limits, and basically he only went Netflix deep. But that means all the other comedians are gonna have to step their game up to how far he did go. And not to mention how far he's going to go in like interviews after the fact on smaller channels and all that other stuff. He's going to go deeper than that. And then other people are going to push the limit. My point is that if it's still laced with all that believing in politics and believing in the system and not addressing the system itself, then you're really just setting everybody up for another mind control program. So the thing with that is he did leave the door open, because he did mention the system itself from many different perspectives in the second part of the show, when he was talking about the pimp story, the pimp book, and all that other stuff. But I don't know. It's just for me, like, I know how smart he is. I know how far he could go. But at the same time, I'm not living in his shoes. I don't know what his whole mindset is, and he's gonna go wherever it is that he thinks he should go, and it ain't up to nobody else to say otherwise. So I'm just using that as an example of just observing it and using that as an example of how society works as a whole. Society uses that kind of influence to maintain a particular level of consciousness, so people don't really do anything. So the system is going to take what he talked about. They ain't going to talk about the deepest layers. They're going to talk about the shallowest shit. They'll probably talk about his Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump stuff. They ain't going to go into deep, in the deepy what he was talking about in his analogies. And even if they do, they're going to give some shallow representation of what it was. That's how this system works. So evolution. So the thing was building itself up with evolution. So they say evolution exists. It's real. It's everything about what our existence is today, and you can't question it. And if you do, you are no different than the savages that we evolved beyond. That's what's happening today. And that's how it protects itself. It says you are a savage, primitive, heathen ass nothing. And if you don't have a PhD like we do, you might as well just throw in the towel and give up, because you don't have a chance in hell. Because we are the smartest, most evolved monkeys in the universe. And if you don't want to be like us, then you've already failed. So they build itself up by saying that, and they build you down by calling you a savage just because you think differently. Then you have just like the pride in the little doggy treats that they give you. So you get pride in like cannabis being becoming legal. And then you have on the other side, you got pride, old schoolers being proud that cannabis is illegal. It's like, oh, you little hippie ass kids smoking them twigs and drinking that wine, that whole thing. It's like, that's a old school ass pride that's like doubling or tripling down on mind control because the shit shouldn't have been illegal in the first place. But you have this mind control program that exists. So the same effect that pride in cannabis being illegal, the same effect that it has on people is the same effect that being proud that it's now becoming legal. It's the same effect. It's not you thinking for yourself, not you going to the depths of what's really going on, how and why it went on. You're just focusing on what's going on, what they told you to focus on. So back in the day, the old schools were priding themselves and saying to the younger generations, don't be like them old street ass punks out there smoking all that weed. Like, I know what you crazy asses. They just believe in those like drug, those old Dare commercials and stuff. Just say no, got to say no. Like that they believe in that shit. These old schools like, yeah, good. Society is telling these kids not to do the right thing. You got people still think like that. The opposite side that has the same effect is people believing that cannabis now being legalized by your slave owners is a good thing. Like, you should be like, oh, proud of that. That's not for you. It shouldn't have been illegal in the first place. And they're doing it to release some of the pressure off of how corrupt this system is in the first place. They ain't gonna tell you that though. So, yeah, so you have people who are priding like the old schools who are, while they were priding themselves in looking down on you because you as a little teenager in the 50s or 60s is smoking weed, while they're looking down on you, they're simultaneously beating their kids or beating their wife or beating their husband because they're drunk off of alcohol. But that's okay because the slave master said it's legal. So I can beat the shit out of you and your mother because alcohol is legal. But if you want to do some old crazy stuff because you're smoking weed, then that's a different story. You see how this consciousness gets generated by your belief systems, which is why I was saying that values are so important. Your values in your life, like what you value of yourself, what you value of society, sets the platform, sets the foundation for your consciousness. If you don't solidify your values, something or somebody else will solidify your values and beliefs for you. And when that happens, they will solidify your consciousness. And you won't have anywhere else to go or anything else to do because you vested your entire life or your reality into something somebody else projected into your reality. Some fake ass snake oil salesman selling you some like lizard oil or some shit. Like they cut some corners and bought a whole bunch of lizards and sold it to you as snake oil. So what did they do when they did two main things? They sold you some bullshit that'll probably kill you because it's sick and they have no intention other than to make money off of your ass. They simultaneously sell you some poison and they keep you away from understanding the actual alchemy of the original snake oil or the original homeopathic stuff. Just same thing with cannabis. Cannabis is probably a better example. Like they keep you away from understanding the beneficial properties. But I use the example of snake oil to understand the salesman part of it. So you can see how these shifty ass people are out there selling you a particular society. So you got pride in the evolution from savages. It keeps them up, keeps you down. You got the pride of the cannabis. You got the pride of cigarettes. People smoke. Oh, it's cool. John Wayne out there smoking a cigarette. Dave Chapelle still smoking cigarettes. And like I'm saying, like, I don't care. You do whatever you want. What I'm saying is that this shit is beneficial. Like the same way back in the day they had doctors telling you that 9 out of 10 doctors trust Marlboro over Camel or some shit, whatever it is. They had these doctors telling you that cigarettes are cool. Same way the society's telling you that alcohol is better than weed and all this other. This is not to say that laws should be created by whoever to make this illegal. This is to share an example of how things are working based upon the intent. Based upon the intent that was generated before these mind control programs got activated. So you have pride in, I said already, the gladiator arena, the bread and circus. You got pride in sports. You got grown-ass men and women walking around with jerseys on. Somebody else's name. This is some really fucked up stuff that's really going on. And I realized this a while ago. I mentioned this in a bunch of previous videos. My last name is the last name of the slave owners that were down in Louisiana. Still got that same last name from the slave owners. That's that legal name shit of you being owner. That is part of it, but even more so, it's glorified because it's a slave master's name. The point is, you have all these basketball players and football players themselves wearing slave owner names, running around with millions and millions of dollars, happy as all hell, jumping all over the place with slave owner names on their backs. And they won't say one damn word about this system because they don't know nothing. They don't care about it. They running, they love it, jumping all over the place. This is amazing. The thing is, you got these little kids running around having a slave name. Not only still having a slave name, but they're wearing the jersey of a bread and circus contender that also goes by a slave name. So you got people wearing jerseys of other people's slave names. If that ain't some gangster ass shit, I don't know what else is. You got people wearing 2 slave names at the same time. That's how this shit works. You need to be proud of this system. You better wear that name proud. Wear that jersey proud. They still wearing the Cleveland Indians shit. Like all this heavily racist and completely, like, think about this. 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, people are going to look back and think like, man, they're going to listen to a video like this and be like, man, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with people. I don't know how this stuff, like, why didn't people even think about this? Some people are. Not saying I'm the only one out here saying. A lot of people have already been talking about this shit before I was even born. But here I am. I have a voice to say that it's still taboo, or it's still a thing for people. Like they can't even comprehend the importance of something like that. So anyway, you have, where did I leave off? Sports, slave names, all this pride. Trump. Yeah, okay, I wrote that down. Yeah, I was just looking at I'm not going to put it in here. I'm just going to put this video up the way it is, just off of what I'm talking about. It's enough. But, yeah, in reference to Trump, how they make you believe into this system, I was looking at that compilation of the day Trump got selected, and you got Cenk Uygur or TYT just going on and on, losing their shit about, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, and all those, videos of people saying, there's no way in the world Trump could actually win. They did that on purpose to make the voting thing look more realistic. Same way with Obama. The same thing they did with Trump, they did the opposite with Obama. It's not about you believing in your contender or whoever winning. It's you believing in the system that those contenders fight within. That's the main intent. So with Obama, you had all these people who didn't vote just show up, but they still got the numbers. They run the numbers. They don't give a shit about whether you show up to vote or not. They're going to run the numbers regardless. They want to put the story the way they want to put it on television. So they ran Obama out there, made people love voting now. Like, oh, you're engaged in your community now because you voted for first black president. Congratulations. Now you got pride in being engaged in your civic responsibility or whatever that is. Same thing happened with Donald Trump, just on the opposite side. You had other group of people showing up out there, voting for whatever. So you, instead of believing in the system in the positive light, you believe in the system in the negative light. Oh yeah, well, it is those people that's gonna go out there and vote for him. So, you know, we just gotta do what we gotta do. Thing is, nobody's questioning the system because you're caught up in the what and the who. So the speed of time, the same way, man. Okay, so overall, when you have this pride in this system, in all these systems, you generate an artificial pride of the idea of yourself.
Murder, invasion, force, Frederick Douglass.
Yes, sir. An ancestor of mine.
Congratulations! 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 Congratulations!
And then you promote yourself as such. So, well, the last analogy that I'm going to put up in reference to these images, and I'm going to close this out, is that to boil it all down, the system, the same way the patriarchal system that we are experiencing today treats women, is the same way the Western civilization treats the world. So it says, well, you are just like back in the day when they were like, women, you can't come in here and vote. Like you can't think. Your brain is literally smaller. Scientifically proven. Because your brain is smaller than men, it's scientifically proven by God that you are a less evolved species. You are less inclined to make judgments that can be trusted for large groups of people. So the only people that need to run things in this world are men, given to us by the proof of science, because their brains are bigger, and that science is given to that, like that was created by God. God didn't make your brain smaller than mine, you little dumbass woman. That's basically what they're saying. They've been saying. They're still saying the shit today. When you got men, dumbest men in the world running this shit. So they say, oh yeah, well, you little puny mind-having woman, shut your mouth. It's all about men, and we make the best decisions. That's the same way Western civilization ran through all the indigenous cultures in the world, through colonization, gentrification, eugenics. Same thing they did with eugenics is the same thing they did with women, talking about they got smaller brains. Same thing in reference to, Bill Nye saying that we don't have souls because the brain is just a bunch of chemical neurons firing off, and then all of a sudden a thought comes in, and that's science. And that's this old mechanical engineer, fake science asshole running around talking about giving you your beliefs down to your soul. Your children are listening to this asshole, and he's confirmed, like he's validated. They give him his okay by giving him a show on Netflix and so on and so forth. So you have sexism that came before racism. So they had to split the man between the woman and confuse all that shit. This is why Rome was all over the place. They were having all that gay shit, the pedophile stuff, all these. Look at the Gladiators, and they had them little boys. Then the movie The Gladiator, and then all those other movies that are out there talking about Rome. They was having sex with little boys, but this is where all this Pizzagate shit come from. You don't think that shit ain't new? This is a system. This is Rome. When you start talking about the infrastructure of Rome, That's when shit starts getting out of hand for them. And they got to cover it up. So they got to sacrifice some of these pedophiles that are out there, some of these abusers that are out there. So they create this mass confusion, this mass chaos, this mass separation from everything that is natural. And now that everybody is chaotic and separated, they installed something to make you believe that it's beneficial for your world. And that was called Western civilization, the university system, heliocentrism, that whole way of life where women are stupid and because they got smaller brains. That's just a scientific fact. So they can't be involved in society. Whoops, sit your asses aside. Black people are savage heathens because look, we've studied their shape of their skulls. We've studied their acts in society. We've studied all this and we've studied ourselves, so we know that we're more evolved than them. So this is proven by scientific studies, scientific facts, which again are theories, just like they do with heliocentrism, gravity, and relativity. They tell you these are theories, but they sell them to you like a snake oil salesman as a fact. The small writing says these are theories, but the big commercial says it's scientifically proven. It's a fact. You women are horrible, just stupid ass things, and men need to rule the world. So what is the counterbalance to that? You have people who are saying, oh, well, it's all about feminism then. Oh, okay. Well, since we realize that the patriarchal system is beating up the feminine, now it's all about feminism. You're trapped again. You're into another extreme because you don't know where to go. You jump from one trap to another trap, and that's exactly where they want you to go. And this is why you have these so-called feminists who actually hate men, and they hate everything about men. And this just inflames the LGBT agenda, and it inflames the alien agenda, because everything is about love and light and unity and genderlessness with all the alien stuff. And it's very complex. It's very intelligent. And you have to pay respects to where it's due, because this system it's got people by the balls of consciousness, and they can't get it's hard to dig yourself out of there. So anyway, I'm gonna close this out real quick because they're talking on long enough. So feminism. So yeah, they put feminism out there. This is why they had this women's march and all this. People wearing these pussy hats and walking around naked, talking about don't slut shame me, slut walk this, and like, is that really what women are about? We're just like, is that what makes you a woman? Like your breasts and the fact that you have just as much sexual freedom as men do, but since it's not accepted the same way in society, you have to overemphasize it by calling yourself a slut and all this. I know what it means. I know what you're talking about when you say that. But my point is, why are we not tapping into the natural representations of what the divine feminine is? See, there's a difference between being a feminist and understanding what the relationship is between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, like from nature. Like, that's research that needs to be done. But the prepackaged bullshit that they want to sell to you is feminism. Just hate men and hate the system because that empowers the system. Just hate everything. Hate. Just hate it all. And then have the idea of things are changing because before women didn't even have a voice. So, excuse me. So now we need this and we need that. It's like asking your slave masters for freedom. First of all, they never had the authority to enslave you in the first place. And if you're not coming from that perspective, if you're not coming at that reality from that perspective, you ain't gonna do nothing but jump into another trap. So this is that same back and forth I was talking about earlier about like having pride. So now you have women and men being proud, excuse me, being proud that they are feminists now, whatever that means, based upon the level of consciousness that they are. That's what it means. They're now feminists, another label to wear. They're feminists now. Why? Because the system itself is patriarchal. Is that going to do anything about the system? Not if the people don't do the work. But it has the illusion of doing something. It has the illusion of going against the patriarchal system. But is it actually doing anything? No, because doing something, taking action, is the responsibility of the individual. But if you have the illusion of something happening, like all these feminism protests and all these social media polls and these social media, like, what are they? Petitions and all that other stuff. That's what your revolution is about nowadays. It's a damn petition. And that's very beneficial for the system. They need that. They ain't do nothing with that petition. Put it to the side. Same thing with like voting. They don't care about your vote. So anyway, I'm gonna close this out. I didn't get to talk about these images. So that's what these two images were meant to represent. It's like, yeah, you're still in a box. You're still in an illusion of change. You're still a slave, waiting for somebody or something else to release you from your bondage. And while you're sitting around yelling half naked on the streets at Donald Trump with a pussy hat on, the rest of the world is still suffering from the system itself carrying out that same mind control program on every other body in society. You think it's new for you? It's not. This shit been going on and on and on for years. And until that is acknowledged, nothing with any kind of substance will actually change. They'll give you your little woman's right. They'll probably give you your first woman president. They'll probably give you a first black woman president to make it really believable, to extremely overcompensate from Donald Trump, because it's not about what the individual is. It's about and who that person is. It's about them making you believe in the system. So they could do it with Donald Trump. They snuck it by with George Bush, or they made it appear to be sneaking by with George Bush because he was obviously a piece of shit. So they had to make it close. They even had to make it so he didn't actually win. That's how this system is very, very smart. They were like, oh, he didn't win. Gore won. But Florida got all messed up because Jeb was his, or whoever was the governor of Florida, and they actually made it. So, and then that's another way of making you feel disempowered. It's like, well, no matter what you do, they're still going to do whatever they're going to do. That's true. But if you see it from an empowered perspective instead of a victimized perspective, then you have a responsibility to do something about it, or at least say something about it. But if you just are in there just playing the game, like, oh, playing the emotional body, oh, well, man, we just got to wait this out. 4 years of Bush. Same thing. You're trapped. With Obama, same thing. And just in the opposite fashion. It was like an overwhelming boom. And he got reselected after the 4 years. So same thing going on with Trump right now. They're playing what they can. Whatever they can. Whatever will distract you. They need that. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video. I wanted to just kind of lay out the relationships between how this system affects us and how we engage in this system and allow this system to affect us by the way we believe it into our existence, through our focus, through what's going on. Like, it's, yeah, you know, I mean, this video has gone on long enough. I don't need to overview it too much. So, yeah. I'll start narrowing down a lot of these videos, and I actually kind of like the way these videos are. They kind of go all over the place, even more so than when I used to. Just kind of like by holding back a little bit, things come out anyway. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for all the new subscribers, the old subscribers, the support, liking the videos, sharing the videos. I appreciate that. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.